In the crowded hallways of Northwood High, Leo Kane was practically invisible. Or worse, he was a target. Every day felt like a battle he was destined to lose. The bigger boys, led by a quarterback named Mark and his linebacker friend Chad, made sure of it. They would shove him into lockers, their laughter echoing like thunder in the narrow corridor. They'd call him names, words that stuck to him like mud, weighing him down long after the school bell had rung. "You're too small, Kane," Mark would sneer, his voice dripping with disdain. "You'll never amount to anything. You're just a nobody, and you'll always be a nobody." Leo carried their words home with him every single day. They became a constant, unwelcome soundtrack to his life. He would sit in his room staring at the football posters on his wall, dreaming of a different reality. He loved the game with a passion that burned deep within him, but their voices always found a way to creep in, extinguishing the tiny flame of hope. He would imagine himself on the field, running with the ball, but the cheers of the crowd would quickly turn into the jeers of his bullies. The doubt they planted in his mind grew like a weed, choking his confidence until he started to believe their cruel assessments. The daily torment was more than just physical shoves and verbal jabs, it was a systematic dismantling of his spirit. They made him feel worthless, small, and utterly powerless. He would eat his lunch alone in the library, hiding behind a book just to avoid the cafeteria where they held court. The loneliness was a heavy blanket, suffocating him. He often wondered what he had done to deserve such treatment. He was just a quiet kid who loved football and tried to stay out of everyone's way. Their cruelty seemed to have no reason, which made it all the more painful to endure. One particularly harsh afternoon, after being tripped in the hallway and having his books scattered everywhere, Leo hit his breaking point. Lying on the cold, polished floor with the sound of Mark and Chad's laughter fading down the hall, something inside him shifted. It was a quiet click, a decision made not with anger, but with a steely resolve. He was tired of being the victim. He was tired of letting their words define him. That day, he decided he would no longer be the boy they said he was. He would become someone they could never imagine, someone strong, someone who could not be broken so easily. The very next morning, Leo woke up before the sun. He found his father's old, dusty weights in the garage and began a new routine. The first few days were pure agony. His muscles screamed in protest with every lift, every push-up, every squat. The iron felt impossibly heavy, a physical representation of the emotional weight he had been carrying for so long. But he didn't stop. With every drop of sweat that hit the concrete floor, he imagined washing away the insults and the feeling of helplessness. He was building more than muscle, he was building a new version of himself, one rep at a time. His days became a simple, focused cycle: school, homework, and the gym. He poured all his frustration and pain into his workouts. He studied nutrition, learning how to fuel his body for growth and strength. Slowly but surely the changes began to appear. The skinny, timid boy started to transform. His shoulders broadened, his arms grew thicker, and a newfound confidence began to settle in his posture. He started walking through the school hallways with his head held a little higher, his eyes looking forward instead of down at the floor. He was no longer just reacting to his world, he was actively shaping it. This transformation was not just physical. The discipline he learned in the garage bled into every other aspect of his life. He started studying harder, his grades improved, and he felt a sense of control he had never experienced before. He spent hours watching college football games, not just as a fan, but as a student. He analyzed the running backs, studying their footwork, their vision, and their ability to break tackles. He would then go out into his backyard and practice the drills, running patterns until his legs burned, pushing himself to be faster and more agile. By the time he graduated from high school, Leo was unrecognizable from the boy who had been bullied just a few years earlier. He was strong, focused, and driven by an unstoppable inner fire. While he hadn't played on the high school team, he had been training with the intensity of a professional athlete. He knew he had a long road ahead, but for the first time, he believed in his own potential. He set his sights on a big university with a legendary football program, not with a scholarship offer, but with the quiet determination to prove everyone, especially himself, wrong. Arriving at the massive state university was intimidating. Leo was just one of thousands of students, a complete unknown. When he showed up for the football team's walk-on tryouts, he was surrounded by former high school stars, each one bigger and more decorated than the last. The coaches barely gave him a second glance. They saw his name on a list with no high school accolades, no recruitment stars, just a blank space. But when the drills started, Leo's years of solitary, relentless training paid off. He was faster, stronger, and more agile than anyone expected. He ran with a purpose they had never seen. He made the team, but just barely. He was at the bottom of the depth chart, a practice squad player whose main job was to help the starters get ready for the next game. But Leo treated every single practice like it was the Super Bowl. He ran every play with maximum effort, studying the playbook late into the night until he knew every assignment perfectly. He was always the first one to arrive at the facility and the last one to leave. His work ethic did not go unnoticed. The coaches started to talk about the quiet walk-on who trained like a machine. His big break came in his sophomore year. During a crucial midseason game, the team's top two running backs went down with injuries. The coach, with few options left, turned to Leo. "Kane, you're in!" he barked. A nervous energy surged through Leo, but it was quickly replaced by a calm focus he had spent years cultivating. He strapped on his helmet and ran onto the field, the roar of 100,000 fans filling his ears. On his very first carry, he found a small seam, burst through the line, and raced 60 yards for a touchdown. That one play was the start of a legendary season. Week after week, Leo Kane stunned the college football world. He ran with a unique combination of power and grace, breaking tackles and outsmarting defenses. He became the heart and soul of the team, leading them to an undefeated season and a spot in the national championship. By the end of the year, his name was on every sports channel. The boy who was once told he was not good enough was now a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, the most prestigious award in college football. He won it, delivering a heartfelt speech about the power of belief. The following spring, the NFL draft was all about one name, Leo Kane. His incredible story, combined with his undeniable talent, made him the consensus #1 overall pick. When the commissioner called his name, Leo hugged his family, the culmination of his long and difficult journey finally realized. He was now a professional football player, the face of a franchise, and a millionaire overnight. His life had changed in ways he could have only dreamed of while hiding in his high school library. He was no longer a victim, he was a symbol of hope and perseverance for millions. A few years into his stellar NFL career, Leo's team was playing a home game. After a dominant performance where he scored 3 touchdowns, he was walking off the field, signing autographs for young fans. Suddenly, he heard 2 familiar voices calling his name. He turned and saw them. It was Mark and Chad, his high school bullies. They looked older, softer around the middle, and wore his jersey. They pushed through the crowd, holding out a football and a marker, wide smiles on their faces as if they were his oldest friends. "Leo! Man, it's us! Remember us from Northwood?" Mark said excitedly. Leo looked at them, and for a moment the roar of the stadium faded away. He saw not the grown men in front of him, but the cruel teenagers who had made his life a living hell. He saw their smirks, heard their taunts, and felt the sting of their words all over again. They held out the football, expecting him to sign it without a second thought. They saw him as a celebrity, a ticket to a good story they could tell their friends. They had no idea of the scars they had left behind, or perhaps they simply did not care. With a calm and steady voice, Leo looked them directly in the eyes. "I remember you," he said, his words cutting through their cheerful demeanor. "I remember you telling me I was a nobody. I remember you telling me I'd never amount to anything." He pushed the football and marker back towards them. "You don't get to bully someone and then ask for their autograph when they become successful. You don't get to be a part of this." He then turned away, leaving them stunned and speechless in the crowd, and went back to signing for the kids who looked up to him. In that moment, he didn't just reject their request. He closed a painful chapter of his life, proving that the greatest victory is not fame or fortune, but believing in yourself when no one else does.